Good morning.
Good morning. It's just checking. Don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste anybody else's time this morning. I came here, I left home at about 3:30 this morning to be here to address this crisis that is in our transit community. I wanted to stop by here today before I went to the Cascade Policy luncheon on Trimet. And I wanted to address you in a respectful manner about my number one concern about Trimet's future. And as you may notice, I'm wearing a Sound Transit hat. I'm a huge fan of Sound Transit. I think they're absolutely awesome. And I will not spike the football in your face because I hate bullies. And I tell you what else I hate. And speaking of bullying, and I want to be very straight up about this. You have a very serious driver assault problem, and you also have a problem with your brand on social media, because when you go to Twitter, when you go to Facebook, you see, and you certainly YouTube, you see your Trimet brand being associated with the 44 documented driver assaults this year with 2 months to go. You had 41 last year, and here's a short video found on the internet.
Assaulting a guy who's wearing an orange vest. Okay, do we have any further description on the guy? Any more description on the attacker? Yeah, I know. He's wearing a... No! Open the door! Open the door! Walk out now!
That's what's out there about your brand. It's happened 44 times this year. I don't know what you have to do, but I'm speaking as a friend of transit, obviously, not a firebrand critic. I'm speaking as a friend of transit. I ask you, give Mr. Sapota all the resources he needs to crack down on these driver assaults. If that means you need to go down to Salem and kick some butt and say, if you assault an operator, you're going to jail for 10, 20 years, that's what you have to do. I'm asking you to go on offense on these driver assaults. 44 assaults this year. I don't know about you, but if this were going on at Sound Transit, I know that my friend, Mr. Rogoff, I know that Karen Kitsis, I know Jeff Patrick would pick up weapons and protect those drivers, because this is not acceptable. And I am sadly of the view, very sadly, as I said on Lane Jensen's podcast last August, that Taggart should reject 34-255 until such time as this driver assault problem is dealt with and your maintenance issues are dealt with. And I apologize if I have to step out at about 9:20 a.m., but I do have other appointments and I do have to worry about your safety and unreliability. And I want to say again before the light goes red that I respect your time. I appreciate you giving me the time to come to you in a hopefully respectful manner. And with that, I will take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe.
You are quite welcome. Let's go save our drivers' lives.
Mary.
I must say in the beginning, I do concur with the assaults that are going on. Definitely needs to be addressed.
Includes those who've signed up for the public forum here this morning. Before our ATU folks leave, I thought I might have a couple comments about maintenance. I know I've got a couple. Anybody else, other comments or questions from the board? I guess I just want to say to you both, first off, safety is a priority for the board. If you haven't understood that, you need to understand it very clearly that safety is a priority. And I go on to the general manager's report. Mr. McFarland.
Yes, Mr. Board President, members of the board, good morning. I did want to just respond at the top up to some of the topics raised in public forum. One is on the driver assaults, and as you well know, this has been a very urgent matter for all of us. We have formed a continuous improvement team with operators, with the transit police, with our security staff to delve into this. You've also instituted within our recertification training, which is underway right now, a federally developed class on de-escalating issues for operators and dealing with that sort of, if you will, psychological side of dealing with the difficult public at various points in time. And we're also now beginning to install some protective shields as sort of a pilot on a couple of, on one at least at each garage, and we'll continue that pilot and monitor its effect. And again, working closely with our workforce to make sure that we've done everything we can. There's no higher priority for the transit police than dealing with these issues. And it's unfortunate that there has been an escalation of these issues over the last year in particular, but really it stretches back a couple of years. And I would also note that in talking to some of my colleagues around the country, this is not an unusual fact. We're not singled out in this regard. Seattle Metro is dealing with the same issues, and so one of my hopes is that we can begin to learn from others in the industry about the successful tactics that can reduce these numbers of issues that come along. And there are obviously others here who are very much involved in the front row of that, but I just note that it is not a single solution kind of issue. There will be many different aspects of finding a solution to reduce the numbers and reduce the risk for our operators. It is a very important topic for us. I just wanted to note that, yes, sir.
Thank you very much for that update, Neil. And I think what you just referenced by this being a critical priority for the agency, and I believe for the board wholeheartedly, I think this is something that, from my perspective at least, and the rest of the board can chime in if I'm off base, but I think this is one of those issues that I would like to see a continuous update process on. This is a really critical issue, and I think you're right. I think other agencies are seeing some of the same challenges, but I think we've got to really shine the spotlight on it and continue to work hard on doing everything we possibly can and putting the resources behind it to address it. And I think a more timely update for the board on the process and what we're doing to address it, I think is something that, from my perspective, is warranted to ensure our focus and everybody's focus is really on this key matter.
Excellent. Happy to do that. And we can actually begin that at the briefing later this morning. if you'd
Timely.
like.
Thank you very much. Wow. So greatly appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Are you done?
I am.
We're working with the union for any kind of, with all kinds of input and information, or they may have that, maybe not accessible to everybody in this
So the union
agency,
is
nationally and locally.
Well, I would just note that related to the continuous improvement team, yes, the union is, including, asking President Block and others related to their, not necessarily participation every day, but overall acknowledgement. And I know the union executive board officers are involved in the effort. On the national front, there are other safety experts at the ATU have occasionally brought in, and we welcome that resource when they do. If I might continue then, related to our maintenance workers, actually the first topic.
To have Harry come up, a supporter come up and give us a little update on some of the assaults.
Yes, sir. And so I'll let Harry take a few minutes, hopefully at the outset of the briefing, just to bring you up to date on our continuous improvement team and the efforts we've been taking.
Thank you. It's very much appreciated.
So I will provide the board members periodic updates if that's the pleasure of the board. We have assembled a continuous improvement team to address this particular issue and have been meeting since July of this year. As the general manager said earlier, we have already launched a assault awareness and prevention program that is part of our recertification program. We are also looking at other programs as well because we want to take a very holistic approach to preventing assaults on our operators and our other employees. We're also looking at the current legislation to see what it says, and we have proposed a revision to that. A number of the members on the CIT are e-board members as well from ATU. We are also working with them, so I will be contacting President Block soon to see if we can coordinate our efforts to have a revision to the to the legislation, to the statute. We have 3 protective barriers that will be installed, I hope, next month for testing purposes. This is an opportunity to have, for the operators to see it firsthand and to give feedback. And based upon those responses, then we'll have to develop a plan forward as to, do we expand this? And if so, what does it really look like? So there are a number of efforts. There is a complete work plan that I can share with the board as well, if that's the pleasure. And but I think we're making progress. Yes, it's going to be somewhat slow because there are many components to addressing the assault issue.
Thank you, Harry. So is there any, and it's going to be something that's highly subjective, but is there any idea of, from criminologists or whatever, psychologist that has any insight on the rise in assaults against operators? Because as Neil referenced, it's something that's not just happening here in the Portland metro region, but Seattle has seen a rise, and across the country we've seen an uptick in this type of behavior.
So I can't answer that question specifically, but because I don't know, but there was a national committee that was assembled which advises the Federal Transit Administration on a variety of safety issues. I am a member of that committee. I also participated as a member of the sub-working group on transit worker assaults. There was a white paper that was developed, and we made a number of recommendations to the FTA. We are using that white paper as guidance in developing our work plan. As I said, it involves a number of components, which training is just one of those components. The protective barriers is just one of those components. There are several components. There's also something called the Transit Cooperative Research Program. There's a report on operator assaults. This is a branch of the Transit Research Board. So it is a problem that is not unique to Trimet or this metropolitan area. It is a national problem that we're trying to address. But we're trying to learn from other transit agencies as well. And so we're looking at a variety of components, and we are taking a very eclectic approach to this issue.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Again, thank you. You might just send to the board if you got any information on the plan, rather than make a presentation. But maybe the next time you're up, you can give us an update on any just the data. And I'd like to know kind of the root cause of some of the assaults, if there's any of that understood. Like is there something that triggers that, and just trying to understand why our drivers get into that situation or are allowed to get into that situation.
I'd be pleased to share that information.
Okay, thank you very much.